Hello and welcome back to another UCL fantasy video. Today we're taking a look at my matchday 14 team selection and all the transfers that I'm planning on doing before the deadline for tonight. Now, of course, this is still a couple hours before the deadline. We have still got lineups to have a look at, so these aren't going to be absolute final transfers, so make sure you follow me over on Twitter because I always post my team before the deadline for any last minute changes that could be potentially made. Now, looking back on matchday 13, this is how my team is currently at, and we managed 87 points, which was pretty decent. We still got a green arrow, which was nice, climbed back up about 6,000 or 7,000 places, back up to 25k, which isn't exactly where I want to be right now, but it's better than where I was, so not really too bad. Finally we get a decent captain. I feel like it's been weeks since I had a lot of points from my captaincy. Finally opted to go for Rafinha as well. I think the last couple of weeks it has been Lewandowski for me, and opted to go for Rafinha this time, and they ended up scoring the same amount of points anyway, so no real advantage there. Fortunately, the Dortmund players never done too well for me at all with Adeyemi and Guirassy, but outside of that, it was, not too bad. I made a couple of last minute changes last week to the team. I opted to go for Bukayo Saka instead of Lamine Yamal. Obviously didn't really work out, unfortunately, but now we have Saka, who looks likely to go through as well. I wanted to go a bit more differential to see if I could climb some rank, because I don't think Saka was going to be too highly owned. And then in defence, I opted to go for Guerrero because he was playing attacking midfield for Bayern. That was going to be my option instead of Pacho, and again, unfortunately, he didn't do too well, and he now looks unlikely to start in the second leg, so he's going to probably be a transfer out for me this week, depending on how the predicted lineups go, but as of right now it doesn't look as though he is going to be starting. So hopefully another green arrow for this week, but first of all, let's take a look at this week's transfers. So based on current team news and everything that we've had a look at right now, this is where my team is at. Now, I'm glad I waited the extra day to do the team selection. This is obviously coming out on Tuesday morning rather than Monday, as it normally does, but that's because Lewandowski doesn't look as though he is going to be starting. There is some rumours and stuff floating about that there is a potential for Ferran Torres to be starting up front to give Lewandowski a rest. Obviously, Barca are 4-0 up at this moment in time, and there could be some rotation. So what I've seen so far is there looks as though there could be up to 3 rotations in the Barca squad, one of them being Lewandowski, the other one being Inigo Martinez, and then it's kind of up in arms with what could be the next rotation in there. But Lewandowski is the one being spoke about, and if obviously that's going to be the case, then it makes the most sense to get rid of him and then bring him back in for the semi-finals. Other moves, I'm looking at Adeyemi coming out. He hasn't really been in the best of form recently for Dortmund, and obviously Dortmund are heading out of the tournament, so I do have 2 Dortmund players currently in Adeyemi and Guirassy, and I do feel like Guirassy is the most, the most important one to have, the most important one to keep, and obviously I don't think, if Dortmund are going to stage a comeback, he's probably going to be at the centre of it all, and he is definitely capable of scoring a goal or two, especially if Barca are going to be rotating. So I'm looking to keep him at this moment in time. If it turns out that Lewandowski is going to be playing, then Guirassy will probably just come out anyway, and I'll need to make a couple of last minute changes there. But of course, the other one as well being Guerrero, who looks unlikely to be starting this week, so that makes the most sense to get rid of him. For our transfers in this week, I'm looking at Yamal and Pacho. They were 2 players that I was supposed to be bringing in last week and opted to change my mind in the last minute. Again, probably would have saved myself a couple of transfers and could have made, a couple of more differential picks this week had I went for those 2 last week, but it is what it is. We're looking like we're going to be bringing them back in this week. And then Vinicius Jr. as well, which is going to give me a front 3 of Vinicius Jr., Mbappe and Guirassy. I think if Real Madrid are going to stage that comeback, I definitely want to be having, Vinicius Jr. and Mbappe, both very, very capable of big hauls, and obviously Real have to score at least 3 goals to make it back into this tie, and I definitely don't think that's out of the question either. So I want to go for both of them in. One of them will be my captaincy option. I'm not really too sure who that is going to be yet, but let's take a look at the team. So with those transfers made, this is the team at the minute, and I still think there is a couple of changes that could be made there. Again, I don't really like the idea of having the double Arsenal defence. We spoke about it in yesterday's guide that the Arsenal team is the most unlikely to keep a clean sheet this week, with I want to say a 14% chance of a clean sheet, which is very, very low. And again, Real Madrid have to make that comeback, have to score goals. So I don't think Arsenal are going to be keeping a clean sheet in there. The reason why I'm not too bothered is because I think if Arsenal end up qualifying with a good performance, there's a very decent chance that one of Saliba or Raya could pick up man of the match, which is obviously going to be 3 points. And I think if the whole game's going to be played in Arsenal's half, then there's a good chance of Saliba picking up a lot of ball recoveries and of course Raya picking up a lot of saves. So as much as I would like to get them out for, defenders more likely to get ball recoveries and stuff like that, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to potentially hold off for player of the match points and recovery and save points with those guys. So that's why I've opted to go for Guerrero out. Obviously he's not even starting or not predicted to start. So I've kind of got, other priorities when it comes to making those transfers. Up top, again, Guirassy, Vinicius Jr. and Mbappe. Vinicius Jr. and Mbappe, already spoke about it as well. And Real Madrid have a really, really good chance of scoring 2.5 or more goals, and obviously they have to score 3 or more if they want any chance at qualifying out of the quarterfinals. So I definitely think that's the best two to have. Ideally as well, if this was like a free hit team, I would probably throw in Jude Bellingham in there as well. But I don't want to go for too many Real players because it does look unlikely that they are going to go through. So as it stands at the minute, I'm going to have 2 Real and 3 Arsenal. So that's at least 2 transfers to be made for the semi-finals for whoever goes out there. We've got 5 PSG players in Pacho, Hakimi, Mendes, Dembele and Vitinha. I do think that's the best 5 PSG players. Of course, they still have a decent fixture, one of the easier fixtures in the Champions League remaining against Aston Villa. And I'm happy enough with the 5 of those guys. Obviously, taking out Lewandowski reduces me of a Barcelona player, leaving me with just Rafinha and Szczesny. So that is why Yamal is the one coming in. Now, one thing I was considering was potentially bringing in Ferran Torres because he is cheaper than Yamal and he is a midfielder as well. And if he's going to be playing up front, there's a good chance he does quite well. The only problem with that is transfers for next week because Torres isn't going to play in the next round. Lewandowski's going to come back into the squad, and had I had, maybe a couple more, surefire players in the semi-finals, then I could gamble on Ferran Torres. But like I said, I've got at least 2 players from Real and Arsenal coming out in Vinicius Jr. and Mbappe. Let's say Arsenal go through as they're likely to do. Next week it's going to be Vinicius and Mbappe coming out. Guirassy is going to be coming out, and then potentially Pavard, depending on what goes on in that game. But again, I don't really want to gamble on that because if PSG end up going out, then I've got a lot of transfers to make. So I don't want to gamble too hard on another one because Ferran Torres is a guaranteed transfer in the semi-finals, and I feel like Yamal's more than capable of matching Torres anyway, and he has been killing me in recent weeks, so he's one of the highest owned players in the game, so I think Yamal is the one that makes the most sense there. Now, as far as the dates go, again, the reverse fixtures means we're probably going to have a lot more Tuesday players because Barca and PSG are playing on Tuesday. So for me, it's going to be Guirassy, Dembele, Yamal, Rafinha, Vitinha, Pacho, Hakimi, Mendes and Szczesny. So 9 players playing on Tuesday, which leaves me with 6 on Wednesday. When it comes to captains, I'm very tempted to stick the captaincy on Guirassy as a big differential because no one's going to be captaining him, and I think he's going to be very lowly owned because Dortmund are set to head out. And again, like I said, if Dortmund are going to potentially go for that comeback, I think Guirassy could easily get something. Dortmund are going to have to score goals. I think they will concede goals as well, so Rafinha could definitely be a decent option. But if Barca are going to be rotating, Dortmund have to win this match. I think Guirassy could be a really nice, lowly owned captaincy pick. And again, that still leaves me with the backup of Vinicius Jr. or Mbappe in the second day, which is kind of what I want anyway. I think I would, like, if I was to pick one captaincy for the week, it would be a Real Madrid attacker. So I'm kind of more open to the fact of captain and a differential player on Tuesday. So I think he could be a really good option. Again, I still need to climb the rank as much as possible, so if Guirassy can get a goal or two, that could be absolutely huge for, you know, making it back into a nice little rank to finish off the season. But that's going to be it for this video. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like. Make sure to subscribe as well if you are new for lots more UCL fantasy stuff. If you haven't already seen the guide for Matchday 14, it is right below my face as we speak. So make sure you go ahead and watch that if you haven't already. It's got clean sheet odds, goal odds, and absolutely everything you need to know for making the best decisions in Matchday 14. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. Good luck for this match day, and I'll see you all in the next one.